And we're back. We're here for episode number 28. Another week closer to football season. I think I saw 25 days away from kickoff. We're almost there. This episode, we're kind of in a dead period, but we've got some good topics and some recent commits to talk about. And then, if anyone has seen on social media or ever heard of someone, the SEC homers and not buying the OU and Texas hype, which no one buys the Texas hype, but the Oklahoma hype is something to buy. We talk about his take and get our opinions in there on that. So if you hadn't already, make sure to like and subscribe. The subscriptions have been really helping us. The likes are doing really well, and we hope that you guys are enjoying it. And if you hadn't already, definitely do that. And leave us a comment. Let us know what you think about it. And without further ado, we'll get into it. So the first one is the most recent commit. Well, there are two commits in the last weekend, last couple days. We'll start with Makai Lemon, which Makai Lemon, we talked about, I think, last week on as far as who he was. And this has been someone we've been talking about for the last couple months. But he's from Los Alamitos, California, teammates of Malachi Nelson, 2023 class, number 33 overall, and labeled as the number 4 athlete. And, it's crazy, that label of athlete, you have to be really good. And I didn't really realize how good he was until we started looking at his stats. Jose, do you want to get your opinion in on him and what you think that the Sooners are getting?
They're getting an athlete, just like what his designation is. This guy can do it all on the football field. I mean, when we're looking at his highlights, it's literally at all three phases of the game. He's returning kicks, punts. He's a great wide receiver and just as good of a corner in high school. I think it'll be fun to see where he ends up playing at Oklahoma. I think last time we talked about him, we all assumed he'd be playing wide receiver since he is coming with his high school teammate in Malachi. But you never know. It depends on team needs, right? We also mentioned like if we do get a stacked wide receiver class, like we kind of expect to right now for 2023, maybe he'll get paired up with Billy Bowman on the defensive side of the ball and maybe potentially Gentry Williams. So it'll be a three-headed monster on that side and on the offensive side. So it'll be exciting to see, but we do have another couple years. So while it's exciting that he did make a hard commitment to Oklahoma this week, we got to just maintain it. Hopefully he doesn't change his mind at any point because anything can happen in a 2-year period, especially with recruiting.
Yeah, definitely. Brandon, what are you thinking about him?
I'm very excited about him. We talked about it a little bit last week, and you mentioned how Brandon, didn't you say you prefer him to be a corner? Like if in a perfect world, you hope he plays DB. Mm-hmm. I kind of lean the other way. I look at this offense, this class that if you look at the 2023 class, I mean, pretty much at this point, they're all elite offensive talents, aren't they? I mean, Trayon Webb's obviously a running, but he's an athlete too, isn't he? Isn't that his just
yeah, and I think they've actually switched him over to a running back, but still, I mean, he can play wherever. Really,
he's gonna play running back. Then you got Malachi Nelson at quarterback, and you just land another huge 5-star receiver. And then we got Luke Haas, the number 1 tight end in the 2023 class. That 23 class offensively is looking stupid. But yeah, like Hose mentioned with Lemon, he's a dude. Like there's not very many kids, even at the high school level, who can just dominate all 3 phases of the football game. And Makai Lemon fits that bill with just. It's like a man amongst boys, at least at the high school level, and then hopefully you can carry that over into Norman.
Yeah, and talking about him playing both sides of the ball, we obviously all watched his commitment on CBS Sports HQ, and they talk about after the commitment, a couple analysts that were there. I know Greg Biggins, I think his name is. He's the West Coast guy for 247, and he was actually talking about that in a perfect world. He prefers Makai Lemon as a DB as well, but Makai just doesn't really care to do that, and he enjoys playing offense more. And, which I kind of was coming from the thought of, well, we're going to have so much talent in the wide receiver spot, we might as well put him on the DB spot because I know he's good there. But it seems like there's actually it's somewhat legitimate that he might be better as a corner, but still his better and what's good. If we can
score 1,600 points a game, it won't matter what our defense does.
That's true. And what we started looking at, or I started looking at, were his stats. And I think you said before we got on that OU has a type, or we talked about OU as a type on the defensive side of the ball with the athletic and very versatile, and even on offense, it's the same way. and guys that can play young in high school. Well, Mekhi Lemon played as a freshman in high school, and in 10 games he had 784 receiving yards and 5 touchdowns.
That's a freshman. Yeah, his sophomore year stats, which you're about to read off, are the ones that really bounce off.
Yeah, and obviously with COVID and whatnot, California had a shortened season, I believe. I don't think he missed any games. I think they only played 6 total. I might be wrong, but he only played 6 games his sophomore year. He had six games, and he had 756 yards and 9 touchdowns. So his yards per game went from 78.5 to 126 every game. And that's from freshman to sophomore. I mean, he's just now going into junior year. And that's also, I mean, Mekhi Lemon or Malachi Nelson's also going to get better. And then you add a guy in like DeAndre Moore, is going to open up the field even more. So I think Mekhi Lemon, as long as they play a full season and nothing crazy happens with COVID and whatnot, he should easily walk into 1,000+ receiving year, and probably double-digit touchdowns. And then I also on the defensive side, he started as a true freshman as a DB. And
he's returning. Like, I wonder what his all-purpose yards were both seasons.
Well, I can look, but his freshman year, he had 4 picks in each year. So he had 4 picks in 10 games his freshman year, and 4 picks in 6 games as a sophomore. And he had, in total between his 2 seasons, he's had 23 solo tackles, 17 assists, and 40 total tackles. I mean, it's just crazy. And so his all-purpose yards, and I think he had some kickoff and returns. I mean, he had a couple hundred yards in punt and kick returns. This guy's all over the place as a freshman and a sophomore. And you're playing at, California football is big time. And I thought that really jumped off the page as a freshman. Him and Trayon Webb, 2023 freshman varsity players. Well, I guess Trayon Webb played 8th grade.
307-4.
That's true. That is true.
It's gonna. I mean, they're stupid. Like, they're so good.
Yeah, they really are.
I don't know if you guys saw. I believe it was last week. Their first game got canceled, and they were looking for a replacement. And I saw Raleek Brown tweeted at, I believe it was either Malachi or DeAndre, one of the guys that plays at Los Alamitos, and said, let's link up and bring in Mater Day versus Los Alamitos. That'd be pretty.
Well, isn't that matchup happening? Level. I know Mater Day is playing somebody that has OU commits too. I can't remember. There's a huge matchup.
I don't know.
It's like, I think Max Preps, like, I think every year they do like a list of like the top high school games, and Mater Day is playing somebody on that list.
It could be St. John Bosco. Yeah, Bosco's a big school, but I don't know. I didn't realize their first game got canceled already for the 20th. They're already canceling it.
I don't remember why. I just remember saying something that it wasn't going to get played or getting postponed or something.
Interesting.
I don't remember the reason why.
Well, I don't know. California, you never know with COVID and whatnot, but hopefully they get to play, and it would be cool to be able to watch them from afar as juniors in high school. But very versatile guy. I think we've talked about this enough. I just really the stats, 1,500 yards as a freshman and sophomore receiving, and like 13 touchdowns or whatever. That's pretty good.
8 picks too.
Yeah, 8 picks. I mean, that's pretty tough to beat. And junior year, he might have all that in one season. And
very true.
So we'll move on to the next commit, so Lemon committed on Saturday, and then Luke Haas kind of came out of left field and decided it was his time and committed on Friday the 6th. And, granted, I think we all had an idea or a feeling that he was going to be a Sooner eventually, but it definitely seemed like he just had that feeling, and it seemed like he talked with his family and said it was time to go. And I believe he was an Arkansas legacy, or he had family that were Razorbacks. And I know he's been to Clemson. He visited a bunch of places. And from what I read, it seemed like he was just sold on being a Sooner. And, he's, for anyone that doesn't know, he's 6'3", 220 pounds, as a 16-year-old or 15-year-old, however old he is. I think he's probably 16 by now. the number 55 overall prospect and the number 2 tight end in the 2023 class out of Bixby, Oklahoma. So, we've been harping on Gentry Williams and Chris McClellan not letting the best Oklahoma talent out. Well, they're not letting a 2023 guy, probably the best guy in the state of Oklahoma, out, which that's something nice to hear. Brandon, what do you think about Luke Haas?
No, for sure. It was definitely a pleasant surprise. You mentioned how it came out of left field. I don't think any of us saw it coming. I remember we were all texting each other and Jerry when Lincoln tweeted those 3 eyeballs, and we were scrambling trying to figure it out. We had a pretty solid idea Mekhi Lemon was going to be one. And then we mentioned guys like DeAndre Moore, or we were trying to figure it out. Luke Haas was a decent surprise. I remember I was driving from Tulsa to Oklahoma City because I just bought a car and it was supposed to be shipped to Tulsa, but they shipped it to Oklahoma City. So I was getting a ride to Oklahoma City, and my little brother Jerry actually was like, Luke Haas just committed to OU. And I was like, what? And then we started texting, losing our minds about it. But that kid, and he's another kid that he fits the mold that we talked about, of these just athletic freaks that OU seems to be really pinning their, really that's kind of like the only kids we're going after at this point. It almost feels like. I mean, I was watching his tape and highlights before we started this. He lined up at receiver at least half the time out in Bixby High School, and he's going against DBs one-on-one, and it looks like me versus you in the Garden Bowl, bro. Like, it's not fair. Like, it's just people getting, like, he's roasting all of these DBs, and he's huge too. What is he, like 6'4", 220 or something? 6'3", 220. He's
6'3".
He's gonna have great size. He can do. I mean, he can block. He's special. I'm very excited about him, and he goes into the point I was talking about earlier about that 2023 offense that can score 1,500 points a game.
Yeah, Jose, what do you think?
Yeah, I think just with the mold thing, like we've been talking about, he obviously fits it. What'll be exciting to see is how big he is once he actually gets to Norman. Like you guys have said, he's only 16 years old. He might get it another couple inches, and he's definitely going to start gaining some weight. So his blocking should be pretty good as soon as he gets to Norman, as long as he's working on it. Obviously, I think that's a big thing, even in the pro level, that a lot of tight ends talk about is you may be a really good pass catcher, but if you can't pass protect or block for the running game, you're not going to get as much time as you could, just because you're a good pass catcher. Like, you can find any of those, right? You got to be able to do the whole job.
I feel like if I'm Lincoln Riley, and I feel like, Lincoln Riley probably knows a lot more about football than I do, but like, you look at these running backs that are committing to us, been Raleek Brown, Trayon Webb, Gavin Sawchuk. I imagine Lincoln wants those guys, at least one or two of them, to explode, kind of have huge years. And if Luke Haas can't go out there and block for them, I don't think, I feel like that's something that they're probably harping on with him. Like, hey, you're going to play in a very prolific offense, and you're going to have plenty of opportunities to get yours, but you're going to have to inline block. And, I feel like, just his little, granted it's high school, but he's mauling people. So, and like Hose mentioned, by the time he actually shows up on campus in 2 years, he might be 6'8", 260.
Yeah, I don't know. I bet, I hope he gets a little bit taller, but 6'4", 6'5", that's probably about it. If you get that 6'8" range, it might be a little too much. But
it's unlikely he grows 5 inches, but
yeah,
I would say maybe like tallest 6'5", 6'6".
Yeah,
but who knows? Maybe he still hits another big growth spurt. He hasn't even hit it yet.
He keeps drinking his dairy.
Yeah. So speaking of a guy with great stats, granted he didn't play as a true freshman, but his sophomore year and his only year at varsity, he had just a hair over 700 yards of receiving and about 9 touchdowns. And so, that's pretty darn good as a first-year starter. He's probably going to be 1,000 plus this year, I would imagine. So
at a pretty high level of Oklahoma football too. I think Bixby's is 6'8" 2. I believe they're like the smaller of the 2 6'8s or whatever. But that's still, he's lining up. He played Jinx, he played Sand Springs, Owasso. He's playing some tough schools. Yeah,
and they've been winning the state title in that division multiple. Yeah. I don't know if they've won it 3 or 4 years in a row, or maybe it's I know they've won majority of them since that alignment has happened.
I think they might get the call up if that's a thing. OSSAA might be like, hey, quit beating everybody by 90.
Yeah, their school district is really growing, and I think a lot of money's coming into it, and they might be here pretty soon, be able to start really competing with Union. Well, when we were younger,
like,
it was Union and Jinx. It's like Owasso and Broken Arrow, or more Owasso than anything. But
Yep.
Either way, it's another guy that's going to probably explode even more onto the scene his junior year, and probably will even end up having a higher ranking by the end of his junior year, according to 247. So go ahead.
Lincoln Riley has to just be like I mean, that dude's just probably just drawing stuff up, and I feel like by the time this class all the way comes in, I feel like he just has unlimited options as far as play calls, trick plays, gadgets. Like his playbook is going to be.
Probably feels like Andy Reid with the Chiefs. You kind of just throw some lines on the board and guys do that right there. Malachi, find the guy that's open. You guys will figure it out once you're on there.
It's going to be that year is going to be ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of that, it's at a pace right now that obviously we're not going to be able to. The Sooners are not going to be able to maintain. I mean, they're number one in the 2023, but 247 they do like an average ranking and whatnot in a point system. Well, OU right now is averaging with 4 commits a 98.5 out of 100 average ranking, and what's funny is Luke Haas actually brought that average down. I mean, like, it's so crazy to even think that. They're not going to maintain it, but like
I don't understand, how is he not a 5-star though? Like he's rated their 50th best player, 55th best player, number 1 tight end in the class. Like I don't understand where they draw the line on what is a 5-star. Like, do you have to be like in the top 30 overall, top 40 overall? What is their line?
I don't think it depends on like where you rank amongst your class. It's where you rank in your skill set amongst everyone they've ever evaluated. So like if you look at the star system, there's also a number system. Like what Brum just said, we average a 9.98 whatever. He might just be like just shy of whatever the requirement is for a 5-star that they have. So like if the requirement's like 9.75, he might be like a 9.73, which just puts him shy. But I don't know. It'd be interesting to hear or to see an article or something for them to explain it. But that has always confused me.
Yeah, it definitely has. I mean, at some point it just becomes like it's kind of splitting hairs. I mean, the guy's going to be incredible, and whether he's a 4 or 5, he very well might boost, going to the 5-star. But, for, like, I think the 2021 class, I think it's around 91.5, 92 for the Sooners. So, I mean, which that's still good. I mean, but Alabama and Georgia and a few other schools are like 94. And so, like, this is a class that I think with the start will be in that 94 to 95 range pretty easily. And another guy that the Sooners could add and would bring down the average rating, but he seems to be like a really tough kid and someone that has a lot of potential. And obviously, Coach B thinks he can be something. He's already recruiting him. Is Joshua Bates. He's the number 31 interior offensive lineman out of Durango, Colorado, 2023 guy. And he plays center in high school. And they've been recruiting him. He might be a little underrated at this point. I mean, for Coach B to already try to lock down a kid like that, who's maybe a little under the radar, I mean, something has to be, they have to know something. So I think he's committing on Friday, the 13th. And so that's something to watch, keep your eye out. I mean, it seems like it's leaning towards the Sooners. But, crazier things have happened. So they might be able to land their first center or offensive lineman in that class. And that's a good thing to start off on. You guys have anything to say with him or I mean,
Creed Humphrey was also a 3-star.
That's true. I mean, there's plenty of 3-stars out there. So if they see something in them, I trust them. There's no reason to question their
bring all the big boys that we can. That's my philosophy.
Yeah. Talking about the O-line, Coach B I think he was interviewed today. I don't know if it was at a press conference or just an interview with a reporter. They asked him about Rame and Bird, which are 2 guys that we talked about last week. When he was talking about Rame, he said that he looks very comfortable at the center position, has very similar characteristics to Creed. So obviously that's very high praise coming from a guy like Coach B, Creed was an amazing player for Oklahoma. So thinking we could have another guy like him is great, especially if he's kind of the captain of the offensive line. It'll be good for the Sooners. And when he was talking about Bird, he said that he's way further along than he expected him to be. Obviously, they know he was very talented and what he expected him to be good, but he's way further than they could have even imagined. And I guess he's just got really good technique just right off the snap to make sure the guys aren't getting past him.
I wonder if this base also play, maybe a little bit of left or right guard, just because I know the Sooners also have Demetrius Hunter in that. He might be class of 22 or 20. I don't remember what class he is, but he's a 4-star center who's supposed to be pretty darn good too. So like, there's going to be a lot of. It's going to be a crowded center room.
Yeah, you're right. He is in the 2022 class. But I mean, speaking more about that, Jose, I mean, that's a good segue to talk a little bit about that offensive line, because that's kind of been a hot topic. And we kind of brushed on it last week, but we brought up with the Bray Walker deal, and the more I've read, the less I've been hearing about him. And it seems like that it's Raym's job to lose at center. It seems like it's going to be more of like the Chris Murray, I think, his name's Chris Murray, and Raym battling out for center. And it seems like Robinson's been kind of playing at that right tackle position, I think. I think it's been right tackle. It seems like he made a comment today or something, or maybe it was a couple of days ago, that Robinson's been kind of playing some tackle, and it's been with Murray also playing guard, so kicking Robinson out at tackle, Chris Murray at guard, and Raym at center, and then was it Hayes at left guard, I think, and then it seems like it's a battle at the left tackle position of Savion Byrd,
Wanya and Harrison.
Yeah, Anton Harrison. Yeah, and it's battle of those three. So it seems like they might have it set, but I mean, it's still a few weeks out. But it sounds like Chris Murray and Raym are going to start this year. I mean, maybe initially, and maybe that's right now. I mean, a lot of things can change over the next 3.5 weeks or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But that might be the pairing that we see, and it's kind of a shame, and maybe jumping to conclusions, but I'm really wanting Bray Walker to break through, and I just don't know if that's going to be a thing, and he might not, but he might. I don't know. It just seems like it's not right now.
You never know. It might be the unfortunate case where we just see his name in the transfer portal next year, so he can go find a place where he maybe fits in better. Because, I mean, like you said, he's not really popping up in very, very many articles and like expectation to play. But it also sounds like Coach B is going through a lot of experimentation right now. It sounds like he kind of knows the guys that he wants to play, but he really wants to make sure he's got the right combination of guys on the field that are going to mesh well as a unit rather than just 5 individuals that are talented at a specific position.
Yeah. Yeah. And it might be something that they have to move Robinson back in at guard, and maybe Bray Walker steps in at tackle. I just don't know. It seems like Robinson might be more comfortable out of the tackle, but I'm not sure. So, but yeah, so that's kind of the updates on the recruitments, the commitments, and definitely watch for Joshua Bates' commitment. I don't know how he's committing. I'm assuming that he'll announce it on social media one way or another. And yeah, so in a little bit of offensive line talk, but I think if anyone has seen this on our Twitter, we quote tweeted it, replied back to it. This show on Twitter, YouTube, or whatever, the J-Boy Show, is an SEC, podcast type deal where it's big into football. And he came out and he had a lot to say about the Sooners and the Longhorns. Longhorns, rightfully so, deserve a little bit of the, they were not great in the Big 12. They're definitely probably not going to be great in the SEC for a while. But he came out and said that the Sooners are not going to win an SEC championship within the first 3 years of being part of the conference. And I think maybe we're all biased, but I mean, we all think that's pretty outrageous. Or even he didn't even entertain the idea. He thought it was outlandish to ever even think that the Sooners could compete or even be in an SEC title game. I think it was even get to the SEC title game.
He said that the Sooners and Longhorns would not be in the title game.
Yeah, so it's not even winning; it's just even getting there, which I think is outrageous to even think about. That 3 years is a long time to be coming out and saying that type of stuff. Um, Jose, do you want to kick us off with what your thoughts were?
Yeah, when I saw this, the first thing I thought was this dude doesn't watch 1 minute of football outside of his favorite SEC school. He's probably a huge Bama guy because they win all the time. This guy is just a bandwagon fan that doesn't know what he's talking about and somehow got a verified Twitter account and a very nice set. Someone gave him money to have a show, which good for him, but he shouldn't be saying this kind of stuff unless he's got facts on his side. He later tweeted that the Big 12 hasn't had any first round picks. And I mean, if he's watched any football in the last 5 years, the Big 12 has had two Heisman winners, two first overall picks. We've had multiple first round picks. And if he's just talking about defense, Kenneth Murray was a first round pick in last year's draft. Jeff Gladney was a first round pick in last year's draft. So clearly the Big 12 is producing okay talent, and Oklahoma is producing very good talent. So the fact that this guy thinks it's crazy that that we wouldn't be able to compete in the SEC, especially against the top, because that's really the only part that's a gauntlet in the SEC is Alabama and maybe Georgia, depending on the year. Those are really like the most consistent teams in my view for the SEC, because the rest really just have maybe one really good year and then they're going to stink again the next. I mean, Florida was good last year, but no one expects them to be as good as they were last year because they have no Kyle Pitts and Trask is gone. LSU was, dominant the year before that, winning the national championship. They sucked last year. They're going to be better next year, but they're not going to be the LSU that won the national championship. And the rest of the SEC, no one's scared of going to Nashville. No one's scared of going to Arkansas. No one's scared of Mizzou. Like, get real, bro. Go find any facts outside of Alabama and Georgia, and then maybe you have a point with Texas, but Oklahoma is going to be in the SEC title game by year 2. Maybe it's fair to say it in year 1, just because, like we've said it before, that going into an SEC stadium is a little bit more intimidating than a Big 12 stadium, but it's going to take like 1 or 2 games to get over that, and then we'll be fine.
That was my favorite part of his whole spiel is when he talked about how every week's going to be a gauntlet. I was like, all right, you big weenie head, dumb, stupid pants. Like, I can't wait to storm into Hell's Gates of Nashville and face that 0-9 Vanderbilt team and see how rocking it's going to be at whatever their stadium is. And then if we somehow sneak that one out, guys, somehow if we storm into Nashville and somehow get away with the dub, like you said, I was like, God forbid Columbia be next on the schedule, because that place would be just as rocking. Like, we're in trouble there. Like, that's bad. And then he mentioned Kentucky specifically about how tough they are or whatever. I think that school went 4-6 last year, 4-7 last year. I mean, guys, I don't know if we can handle that. Oxford with Ole Miss, yeah, I mean, that's ridiculous. Like, how can we ever handle the Ole Miss, whatever, the Rebels, whatever, yeah, is that what they are? With Lane Kiffin on the sideline trying to recruit Lionel Messi to play kicker. Like, we're screwed.
Well, don't forget, those Gamecocks are pretty tough.
Oh, the 2-8 Gamecocks. It's ferocious. I mean, dude, it's a gauntlet every week. There's no doubt about it. Storming into Hell's Gates of Nashville. The Sooners could literally get drunk as piss the whole time in Broadway, show up at 10:30 hammered, and probably hang 40 on Vanderbilt.
And have Caleb Williams come in at halftime.
Lincoln Riley could just take the night. He'll be like, all right, guys, you go play the game. I'm going to hang out here on Broadway. Let me know how it goes.
Yeah, I mean, it's just – I mean, you can't forget about those dogs down in Mississippi. I mean, the old Mississippi State boys, they're tough. They'll give them to you. You know, the average 5-10, 6-6. It's just –
I think
I will
– Jose tweeted about
Alabama.
It when he quote tweeted it. It's a top-heavy conference. Alabama's consistently dominant, and the whole conference likes to ride off of it. And granted, Florida had a pretty darn good year last year, and they'll sprinkle in, Louisiana State just put it together out of nowhere, really. I mean, maybe out of nowhere. I'm sure it was years in the making, but they sparked together one of the best college football teams of all time. But then last year they won 4 games or 5 games, whatever it was. I mean, every now and again they'll sprinkle in some dominant teams, but I mean, consistently at a consistent basis, it's Alabama carrying the conference and everybody else just riding their coattails and chanting SEC.
Yeah, I mean, I will say, so last year, let me count this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So 9 of the teams last year were at or under 500.
How can we compete in that?
Yeah, wait, did I say that right? Yeah, let me make sure.
And with Florida specifically, let's not forget how their season ended with the loss to the Sooners.
But they didn't really care.
Because you forget that their season ended 2 weeks prior to the SEC championship game. Remember?
So 9 out of the 10 and 9 out of the 14 teams were at or under 500. Let's think about that.
I hope we have that video saved. So whenever Oklahoma, I think it happens the first year we play in the SEC title game, especially if we win that. Oh my gosh, guys, I'm gonna DM slide that guy so hard and probably be mean.
Well, I think it'll also depend on when did the Sooners actually get in the SEC, because if it's next season, I could see it being a little tougher with Caleb Williams starting the first year. But what I think the optimal year would be 2023, because you'll have enough of the time of the recruits.
Offense.
Yeah, and you get these recruits in that you're recruiting, you're selling the SEC deal, and you're maybe getting some better defensive linemen. You know, Gabriel Brownwell-Dindy, it sounds like that's really looking good for the Sooners.
Overton.
Overton. 2023, I think, is when the Sooners will win. So whether that's our first or second season in the SEC, I don't know, but I really think it's going to happen within the first 3 years. Well, it's not even, we don't even have to win. We just have to show up, and we're not even supposed to be there.
What is their mascot?
The Commodores, right?
The Commodores.
I think. Yes. I don't know. They completed the perfect season last year, 0-9.
Yeah, they need to stick to baseball. Bacon said that about another about a Big 12 school sticking to basketball, but Vanderbilt needs to stick to baseball.
They're very good at that sport. It's hard.
That's going to be one thing. I mean, if we're talking Oklahoma SEC baseball,
I mean, it's amazing.
Maybe that's what he was talking about. He was talking about Oklahoma being in the SEC for baseball, because that he might have a point.
He does have a point.
That could be ugly, but football, no.
Yeah. Well, and just to compare, just to be transparent, 6 out of 10 teams in the Big 12 were over 500.
So Iowa State could not beat Vanderbilt in Nashville.
No, I mean, we could have the battle of the perfect seasons of Kansas Vanderbilt. I mean, that would sell a lot of tickets. But Vanderbilt will probably score 100 on them because they're part of the SEC. So it's okay.
Yeah.
I don't know.
You can't fix stupid, right? And there's no point in trying to argue with a guy like J-Boy, but let's at least get our facts right.
Well, he even had Colin Cowherd on his side, so he had the national guys with him, or at least a national guy.
Yeah.
Again, you can't fix stupid.
I don't know. I guess that's part of the deal is you sometimes have to make outlandish comments to generate buzz, and you get people like us to comment or fans to get riled up. So it is what it is, but I think that's all we've got. We'll just wait, and it'll be one of those wait and see type deals, and maybe he'll be right, but I have a hard time believing it. So you guys have any final thoughts before we wrap this one up?
Stick to baseball, Vandy.
Screw you, J-Boy.
Yeah. Let us know what you guys think in the comments. Was he outlandish to think that? I mean, I would imagine most of you agree with us, but maybe not. So we really appreciate it if you made it this far. If you haven't already, hit that like button, subscribe to us, please. We really appreciate it. We're almost up to 500 subscribers. That's a milestone that we didn't think we'd get for a long time. And it's coming a lot faster than we expected. And we'll keep the content coming your way. And we're almost there to football. We got 3.5 weeks left. So we'll catch you guys tomorrow. See ya.